Hey guys, Marissa at KitchenTableStamper.com. Today I have got this Oh Snap card for you. It features the Oh Snap photopolymer stamp set from Stampin' Up. This is in the January-June mini catalog. It's a 19-piece photopolymer stamp set, and I had to get it because the man, Max, my husband, always says Oh Snap. It's really hysterical. He's an adult and not even a young adult, and always comes out of his mouth, oh snap. And so when I saw this, I knew I had to get it. Now this card is a card I made for him, and it is inspired by the Kitchen Table Stamper Craft Social Inspiration Challenge. If you're not familiar with the Kitchen Table Stamper Craft Social, it's our social group. You can find us on Facebook, and I'll put the link for you in the description. We hang out there and play games and have challenges. And one of the challenges we have is this inspiration challenge. Our inspiration for this challenge is this kitchen. And so I hope you can see my card in the inspiration. I picked up on the black and white tile, the wood tones in the table, the splashes of green with the artichokes and the greenery on the table, the white cabinets and appliances, and then the vanilla paint. I thought that was very interesting. I never used the two together. So that's how I use the inspiration kitchen. And this is my card. Let's get started. I've got a piece of Very Vanilla here, and it is 8.5 by 5.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4. Let's go ahead and put a crease in that. I've got some wood grain designer series paper, and this is from In Good Taste designer series paper. This is 4 inches by 5 1/4. I'm just going to glue that to my card front with some liquid glue. And we are off to a good start. Oh, I hate when both sides of the paper is awesome. I love this tile pattern. Oh, wow. Glue it down fast. All right. And there's our card base and that wood tone from our kitchen table, our inspiration kitchen. All right. Let's slide that aside for a minute. And next up, I've got a big piece of Very Vanilla scrap. I'm going to stamp my crocodile from Oh Snap. So I've got him on the Stamparatus. I bring that in here. I love the Stamparatus. So you get 2 plates with it, and it makes it easy for projects where you've got multiple stamps that you want to use. You don't have to remount things, which is wonderful. So I'm just switching that. I'm gonna drop my cardstock in, and I want to get the best use out of my cardstock, so I'm going to slide it and then grab my magnets. Be very careful when they're together like that. Did you see how close mine are? They want to be attracted to each other, so be careful you don't pinch your fingers with them. Keep them apart. All right, I feel pretty good. Let's go ahead and ink that up with Tuxedo Black and give it a stamp. Oh, what a cutie. I love him. Fantastic. We'll give that just a second to dry before we start coloring. Move my, you know what? Well, we've got the Stamparatus. Let's just go ahead, lift the plates. We'll bring our buffalo check background back into the picture here. Pop that guy in. Okay, I've got a piece of Very Vanilla here. This is 3.5 by 4 3/4, and you can see I've got my buffalo check kind of printed on in its placement. So I'm going to put my pattern where I want it to start and stop, and then I'm going to go ahead and ink up my buffalo check really good. Now the nice part about this, doing the buffalo check in the Stamparatus, is it's got kind of it's not the most solid finished stamp. It's just the way it is. It was a concern for a lot of people when it first came out. So if you want a darker impression, or if it doesn't get exactly what you want, if you line it up in the print like that, you can go back and add another layer of ink and re-stamp over it. So the Stamparatus makes it really pretty easy to fix if you want a darker impression. I usually just take the impression I'm given. And so let's see how we did here. This point too, since my Stamparatus picked it up, you can just burnish the design on a little bit and lift it up. And there's my buffalo check. Kind of reminds me of the floor in our inspiration kitchen. Bringing that scrap of Very Vanilla back in. And my Memento Tuxedo Black ink pad. Let's stamp a little frog. Hey, he's so cutie. And while we're stamping, I got a Whisper White label. So I'm going to bring in that white and vanilla kind of vibe. And again, that's from my inspiration kitchen. I would never have put vanilla and white on the same card before. This is cut with the Stitch So Sweetly dies, and it's this 2 3/4 by 1 5/8 stitch scallop. Now, if you want to, I think I'm going to stamp my O Snap. What I'm going to do is kind of lay my piece over the gator. And then I'm going to try to aim for about 1/3 of the way from the left, just underneath the stitches. That should be pretty good for lining up my gator on the card. Oh, snap. Let me get this ink pad out of here. As you can see, I'm kind of a disaster with an open ink pad. All right, now my gator is Granny Apple Green. I'm going to fill them in with light and then do some details with the dark Granny Apple Green. Okay, he's almost got a good solid base coat here. So let's take the dark and give him some details. I'm gonna do a little bit of shadow here on this back leg that's kind of behind the body. And then I'm gonna go and just follow these little scales that the artist drew in. The little scribble. And then these little marks for the belly. All right, then we'll just work that into the light Granny Apple Green. Little circles, little swoopy strokes to loosen that ink, and little circles to blend it. Keeping the ink wet is really important, so I'm going to go back and get a little bit of wet ink on these pieces here. And then kind of along the belly with a swoop, and then just color over those little hash marks there. Last up is the spines down his back and tail. Let's color that in with the dark Granny Apple Green. Awesome. Now I wanted my frog to be green also, but I wanted him to stand out as different from my gator. So I've got light old olive here. Let's make sure, yeah, that looks good. And just scribble in a little light old olive, then a little speckles on his back, little shadow on his legs, that little eye on the back. There we go. Bring those two together. I'm gonna get some paper snips. I'm gonna cut these guys out, and I'll meet you right back here. All right, I'm back. I've cut out my gator and I added some dimensionals while I was at it. Same with my little frog. Let's bring our card back in here and we're gonna assemble a few layers. So first, our very vanilla with the buffalo check. I've got a basic black layer here, and this one is 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. We're gonna go ahead and glue it to the basic black. Well, you know what? It looks like I wrapped my ribbon between them instead of around them both. All right, so I've got some white crinkled seam binding here. It's fantastic stuff. And we're going to grab some scratch paper and we're going to use our dark granny apple green and we're going to color this awesome ribbon. I love this ribbon because it is any color you want it to be, as long as you've got a marker. Now keep in mind that the Stampin' Right markers are water-based, so they'll dry a little slower. The alcohol-based Stampin' Blends give you a quick finish, and then look at that. That's so good. I also love the sheer texture of it. Makes me so happy. All right, let's go ahead and wrap it twice around our very vanilla panel. Leave enough to tie a bow. And we're going to tie that, not so tight that it bends your cardstock, but pretty snug. I love it. So easy to handle. So pretty in any color, white or any color you want it to be. There's our bow. Some ribbon scissors and trim it away from the spool. I always leave the ends whatever I've got color because you never know if you'll go back to it. If not, you can take it off at that point. Now let's go ahead and glue our buffalo check to our basic black. It's a very skinny border, so let me get some good high contrast so I get a nice straight border. It's going to be hard to move this ribbon after it's completely glued down, so be sure that you check, make sure it's straight. It's where you want it to be before you burnish it. I think that looks pretty good. Uh-oh, I love multi-purpose liquid glue for this. My left margin is wider than my right, and so I need a slide. I love that with multi-purpose liquid glue, you can do that easily. Are you guys like me? Do you have to adjust your layers sometimes to get them right? Let's get that on the card. Again, multi-purpose liquid glue. You can use dry adhesive if you prefer it. Somebody asked me once, why do I use so much multi-purpose liquid glue? And honestly, it's because of things like that. I want nice even borders and straight elements, and it gives me a little bit more time if I need to slide. See how I just slid that down? But I'm also kind of frugal. I love that you can get so much done with one bottle of multi-purpose liquid glue. That's a really economical way to adhere your projects. So that's why it's my favorite. One tail is a little too long. Let's go ahead and take a look here. I have a black scrap and I punched it ahead of time with a Label Me Lovely punch. I'm going to use it to mat my sentiment, but I thought it was a little insignificant. You see that? So I'm going to take my scissors, cut it in half, and then I'm going to adjust. I'm going to make it just a little bit taller than it truly is so that we see a bit more of the decorative edge. All right, so I'm going to do just hiding the straight edge behind the scallops there. And then this guy will do the same thing. A little multi-purpose liquid glue. Line it up so that the straight edge is just below the scallops. And then real quick, while we can still cheat, take a look at the back and we can make sure that we've got it positioned well so it lines up right to left by checking on the back to make sure that these lines would continue in a straight manner and complete. We're not askew like we cut it in half. Of course, you could be if that was a design choice, but that's not what we're going for here. We just wanted to elongate our label a little bit. We want something a little bit longer, and just by making that secret slit in half, we've got a bigger shape. All right, so let's put this guy on, but before I burnish it down, it's really important that we are double sure that our crocodile is going to fit with where it's positioned. And I think I like that, so I'll go ahead and burnish now, making sure my sentiment reads level. You see that white on vanilla? Oh my gosh, normally I'd never ever do that. It was such a push outside of my comfort zone. That's why I love these challenges, and I love that you guys play along with me, because this is the stuff that really does push me outside my comfort zone. And I'm so inspired when you share your creations on the Craft Social with me. All right, so there's our little gator guy. Let's get him in there, but we want to make sure his tail is not up past that top fold. It's gonna go right up to the edge, that's okay, but not past. And our little froggy dude just sitting there like not a care in the world. Now, after I had it done, I was like, okay, that's good. And it is for my husband, and like it can be. But I always have to bring things up just a little bit. So because of all the nickel hardware in our inspiration kitchen, I decided to get some metallic pearls. I love these embellishments, and I think that they have kind of a little bit of a masculine touch to them. You get gold and silver in the same packet. It's, I believe, 240 pieces. Let's see if I can tell you. 242 pieces, so you get a ton. They go a real long way. I've got my dragonfly punch, because I assume that there's lots of dragonflies in the swamp, and some vellum. I'm going to go ahead and punch a couple of little dragonflies. And since I don't see where I put my vellum, I'm just going to grab my stash. I love to have little things like this on hand because they make great embellishments. So I'm going to grab a couple dragonflies. And go ahead and hold the body and fold out the wing, both of these guys. And see, now they're in flight. But that soft little vellum, that'll go into an envelope, no problem. Add just a dab of multi-purpose liquid glue, and then because it's vellum and I don't want it to show through, I'm going to kiss these two together, and that should be enough adhesive for these guys to stick to the card. Now, to distract from the adhesive and to get that like that nickel feel, we're going to add some pearls. Got my take your pick tool, and I am going to put 2 on their bodies. Like segmented insect. And then a couple that are just, I don't know, like sprinkles in the air. They're dragonfly sparkles. That's what they are. Haha, there it is, all done. What do you think? Oh, snap. If you've got any questions about the project, the products, if there's anything I can do to help you stay crafty, email marisa@kitchentablestamper.com. And to shop Stampin' Up 24/7, buzz over to marisaalvarez.stampinup.net. Thanks for watching.